Today we're going to talk spray safety, and there's a few safety topics we want to address. One, the easy one, respirators. Two, eye protection and why we use eye protection. And three, avoiding spray injection. So the first one, the easiest, and we're very good at this already. When we're spraying, we wear a respirator because there's particles in the air. We don't want them in our lungs, so we have two primary filters for that. The blue filter is handling water-based spray mist, which is mostly what we're spraying. If we're spraying oil-based or solvent-based, then we use the carbon filters, or we also call them the organic vapor cartridges. So those you're already familiar with, but just always a reminder, wear the respirator. Second thing is the eye protection. And this I don't see good compliance on, largely because I think the feeling is the little bit of mist in the air is not going to hurt your eyes. May or may not be the case, but we're avoiding the more important question, which is direct injection to the eye or splatter to the eye. And it's rare, but it can happen, and when it happens, it's most unpleasant. So how does that happen? Two ways. One way is, well, obviously you can spray yourself in the face. That's pretty hard to do, but not impossible. Want to avoid that one. But sometimes the tip can be put in on an angle, and when you pull the trigger, or the housing could be a little bit loose, this is most common, the housing's a little bit loose, and you pull the trigger, it comes out of there and comes right at your face. And there's no time to blink. It just happens right away. So I know this for a fact because I one time sprayed tar, put everything together beautifully, got this giant pump, giant tip, all set, ready to go, pulled trigger, and the tar came out of here and completely splattered my face. And you can imagine the cleanup on that. And of course, I don't learn well, so I clean everything up, take my time, fit it all back together exactly perfectly. This time I extended my arm far away with a long extension, pulled the trigger again, and yes, it came back and hit me in the face a second time, at which time I realized the housing was no good, replaced the housing, and we were fine. The only other time I've sprayed myself in the face was during a training, had the safety glasses on, everything's going along fine, the tip got caught in a branch and turned like that, pulled the trigger, sprayed right back, caught me in the face, had the glasses on, was fine. So that's rare, but when that happens, you can really have a problem. The more common way you're going to get the spray in your eyes is during cleanup. And during cleanup, this pump is turned off, the prime is down, which means there's no pressure on it. This is locked, but what happens when we go to clean up is we pull the trigger and we have liquid in there, and the liquid will splash back and catch you in the face. So this is something I want to draw a lot of attention to because we don't want splatter in this way. And the way we remedy that is remove the housing. So when we're cleaning out a pump, we remove the housing. Okay. Oh, injection we'll cover later, so let's get to that. You saw how I removed the housing. My finger's like this, not in the front. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. If we're going to turn this on, I'm not going to turn it on because the noise of it will drown me out in a second, but I'll just walk you through the steps. This prime is down, so that tells me the pressure is off the system. When you get a pump, if it's in this condition, even though this is off, unplugged and wrapped up, it is fully energized and ready to spray with 3000 psi. So you may lower your you may get careless because, oh, it's off, it's wrapped up, it's totally fine. It could be fully charged, ready to go. So if you pull the trigger, you can inject yourself very easily. So we always make sure this is down, which means we've released the pressure. Okay, now if we're going to want to clean this out, what I would do is I would pull the trigger and aim it in a safe direction, turn the pump on. This switch is back here. It's not plugged in. It is plugged in. Well, we're not going to turn it on anyways. We turn it on, and first pull trigger, second turn on, so that when it comes on, a lot of the pressure is going into the prime tube and some is coming out of here. Once we get a steady stream, then while keeping this depressed, move it to paint and we'll get a steady stream, and once we see the next color coming through, we know we're done. What we do then is keep holding this back to prime. That takes the pressure off the system. So I want you to understand that when you start in the prime position, hold the trigger, don't let go of the trigger, move to paint. Once you're done, back to prime. So you're back to safety again, okay? The other main component is I've removed the tip and the housing. If I did this with the tip and housing, I'm going to get a concentrated spray that's going to burst back in my face. I've removed that, gone to low pressure, I'm getting a small trickle. Much safer to handle, okay? I'm avoiding the back splatter into my face. And I have the safety glasses on just in case. So we talked about respirator, we talked about injection in the eyes or spray in the eyes. The next thing, you saw me do it already, is first we want to make sure that this is always locked. The Graco's lock like that. Okay, so now that's locked. I know this is down to prime, so there's no pressure on the gun. There's no power here. But I'm still going to treat it like there is. We don't want anything going in front of the tip. This is awkward to put on, right? It's like a little bit tricky because you have to turn and you don't want your hands in front of the tip. Take the tip out. Tighten up the housing. Okay, don't put the tip in. Snug it up. See what I'm doing? My hand is not in front of the tip. And I'm going to do a bad demonstration so you see what most people do. We usually do it this way because it's easier to hold the whole thing together. You can tell what happens if, God forbid, the trigger gets pulled and you're spraying. That's not a good place for your hand to be. That will create an injection in a very critical part of your hand. The palm of your hand is not a good spot to get an injection. There's no good spots, but that'd be about the worst spot. Because as you saw from the video and the photos, if you do get an injection, you may see a little tiny break in the skin, very small, but paint will be injected inside your body and they have to do an operation to remove it. So if that happens, that's an automatic trip to the emergency room right away. Even if it's just water, emergency room. But keeping our hands away, the most common injection almost always is during the cleaning process. Usually people use their hands or a rag and they're wiping the front of the tip and they pull the trigger and they've injected their hand. That's how injection almost always happens. It could happen if you're passing too close to one hand or the other, but it's hard to get your hand or other body part in front of that, usually during the cleaning. So when we're cleaning, a few steps. Pressure is off. We've taken the prime tube down. There's no pressure on the pump. Then we have locked the trigger and we still keep our hands out of this zone here. Hands up here, safe from the tip. Okay, so 3 key components: respirator, eye protection, and avoid injection. Thanks, guys.